Welcome to Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football. My name is Wes, and I'd like to invite you to join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news from around the league, make predictions for the upcoming games, and much, much more. And what's up, everybody? It's Wes. Saturday had some wild ones, as we will discuss. And I don't mean just Bama and Tennessee. There was others. But since I just mentioned it, it seems like a good time to say, Jesse, it's good to see you. I heard you the day after the game, and the voice was still recovering. How is it today?
It's not quite up to snuff today, but that is okay. And I have to admit, who I am during an Alabama football game is like actually truly who I am. So I will not apologize for that. But watching that game in the state of Tennessee was not the best decision I ever made. So I do regret that. And I'm here, and I may surprise some people.
Okay, we'll just leave it at that. We'll get into it. And yes, it has been said that sports do not build character, they reveal it. And that is absolutely true. Also,
Matt, you look so different every week. You're constantly evolving as a person.
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
Today, we are privileged to be joined by one of the biggest Tennessee fans that I know, to be our special guest for the show. Jacob, welcome. How's it going?
Thank you. I'm just excited to be here and very honored to be one of the biggest Tennessee fans. I am probably the biggest I know. So, that's a good thing, I guess. I also have not quite recovered from the game. And if we're talking about it revealing character, while I was hiding in my kitchen and not watching the TV on the last defensive drive, I think it revealed some character in me. So we'll just, I don't know. We'll leave it at that, I guess.
Well, man, I really appreciate you being on the show. So the Bama-Tennessee game won't be mostly recounted from a sad perspective, or at least, a third. So, but I have to ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being you're just playing off the win, biding your time, and 10 being you're ready to jump in the Tennessee River, cigar in hand, and float downstream with the goalposts, where are you?
Well, so for me, I had an opportunity to be at the game, which would have been obviously magnificent for me. But I was on my way back from Disney World with my kids. So, I chose the family, which is,
memories, man.
Way to go me. But at the same time, when I watched the scenes afterwards and, I would have been down there. I'd have been on the field. I'd have had a cigar. I'd have been taking apart the goal. I'd have done all of it. So I was a little upset that I wasn't there. But I also don't know that I could have handled it. Like I said, while I was hiding in my kitchen, I was like, maybe it's a good thing that I'm not there. There's be nowhere to hide if I was there. So
right.
No, I'm probably at like I'm not going to say 10 because I'm a Tennessee fan and I'm always scared. I'm going to go with like an 8. Okay. So I'm really pumped. This has already been way more than I planned on us doing this season. So I am really pumped, but I'm cautiously optimistic still.
You sound like me, never quite ready to be at a 10. I'm never there. It's just, cause you know what happens when you get there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So cool. Well, real quick before we press on, do you have anything to plug, like social medias, anything like that? Any place where people should find you?
So I am on Twitter. I am Volgoose on Twitter at Volgoose, VOLGOOSE.
Is that the first time this has been put out to the public? Is this a reveal?
So I do occasionally post my face on there, but I don't keep it on there just because people are crazy, and just because you are a fan of a different school, you can get your bosses telling you, and people telling you to your bosses rather, and stuff like that. So I don't plaster my face all over that. I don't put my name all over it. But yes, I am the Volgoose.
I was about to say you heard it here first, but it's already out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get into those games from last weekend.
Always remember, if you ain't first, you're last.
All right. Well, let's talk about the first one. And that was Auburn at Ole Miss. Ole Miss winning this one 48-34. I got the point in this one. This one turned into a wild one here as both teams scoring points. Auburn got things rolling on offense, but on the defensive side, they just couldn't stop Jackson Dart and Lane Kiffin's offense. Auburn kept it close in this, what turned into a slugfest, but ultimately just too much offense from Ole Miss. So real quick, I'll give my takeaways and then you guys just jump in. But the PI call, oh my gosh, in the first half was kind of bogus against them. I wasn't really sure about that, but there is hope for the Auburn offense under Robbie Ashford. I say that tongue in cheek. They put TJ Finley in for a drive. Seemed like that might have calmed him down a little bit, because it seemed like when they put him back in after that he was a little more steady, a little more solid. He's going to need some help from the defense though, and they just didn't really get it this game. And then number 3, give the ball to Tank. And I know we've said this, I don't know how many times, but it's like the dude is a beast. I mean, just look at that. Tank Bigsby, 20 carries, 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, why are they not doing this every game? I don't.
His name is literally Tank.
His name is Tank. It's exactly right. So what are you guys' takeaways? What do you got?
Y'all, Harsin hot seat.
Absolutely.
That's it. And I've read places where it says, like obviously Auburn's ready to get rid of him. He's digging in his heels. It seems like the players might be okay with him, which from my perspective, how are you? But he's on the hot seat. He's got a 9-11 record in his first 20 games as the head coach. And it's hard to think of this because the Tigers beat Ole Miss for the 6th consecutive time last year. And we're 6-2 with an opportunity to win the division, and they haven't beaten a ranked opponent since that October win against Ole Miss at Jordan-Hare. And it's like all of the miracles that Auburn used to have just run out. And I'm not sure that Harsin lasts much longer there. And then my other 2 takeaways are all Ole Miss. I think the rushing attack continues to be Ole Miss's bread and butter, which is quite different than what we're used to seeing from a Lane Kiffin offense and one from years past. But they rushed for 448 yards against Auburn, while having 3 players rush for over 100 yards apiece. Quarterback Jackson Dart running, Zach Evans and Judkins, everyone was just on point as far as the running game goes. And so Dayton Wade averaged 15.5 yards on his 4 carries. This is crazy run heavy offense. Like I said, very different from what we've seen in the past. And then my other one for Ole Miss is, unfortunately, like we talked about last week, Ole Miss is playing to the level of their opponents, specifically in, the first half. They're not playing lights out, and they're having to play catch up. So this is not something that you need to do, especially in the SEC. You can't take your foot off the pedal at any point. And they let Auburn get in this ball game just a little bit too much, I thought. So if they're going to try to win in the SEC, they've got to be consistent, and they can't play down to their opponents.
Yeah. Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way with Brian Harsin. I mean, I put in my takeaways that he needs to be sued for coaching malpractice. I mean, they have some playmakers. I mean, Tank Bigsby, I wish we had Tank Bigsby, and he's like, we'll give it to him every once in a while. Like I mean, it's just shocking some of the decisions he makes that just make them lose. It is absolutely surprising at times where I'm just like, like we wouldn't see this from a local middle school coach. Like this is just shocking how bad he can call a game. And I think that as far as Ole Miss is concerned, I really loved that early interception by AJ Finley. I felt like that's one of the better plays from a safety that we've seen in the SEC recently. Just like knowing where the ball is and just going out there and snatching it. We struggled heavily with our safeties, and I was just like admiring that, like, oh, that's nice. But like in general, Auburn is just like a momentum team. They lost their momentum in that game, and they just can't get it back. And if they don't have the momentum, they're just not good. And I think that speaks to Brian Harsin yet again. He can't get his team up and get them prepared and ready to go ever. And it's a sad state. But whenever, I don't care what job you're doing, if you are distracted, you will just rely on being able to walk out there and do your job. And I think that's what we're seeing with Brian Harsin, is like he has never been not distracted. And so like we're seeing him walk out there every day and be like, well, I'm good enough to coach this team. I'm just going to go out there and do it. And then he goes out there and screws it up. He's just not, he is not mentally prepared. His team's not mentally prepared. It's pretty sad. And then with Ole Miss, like with them playing to the level of their opponent, it's honestly a similar thing. I feel like Lane Kiffin stays distracted. Now he's got a way better team. He is a way better coach, but I feel like Lane stays distracted. I mean, he was focused on Tennessee last week whenever they were supposed to be preparing for this game, instead of being prepared to play Auburn and just blow them out like they should have been able to. So yeah.
Lane Kiffin to me has always been a great coordinator. I don't think anyone argues that, right? Like as an offensive coordinator, he's fantastic, but he always, in my opinion, needs a head coach to keep him focused, to keep him in line.
Yep.
And when he doesn't have that,
it's immaturity. It's immaturity. Like, he wants attention so badly that he just will do anything to get it. And this past week, all the attention was on that Alabama-Tennessee game. And he's like, well, how can I get some attention? Oh, I'll post the picture of myself right before I left Tennessee. It's like, dude, why are you even looking at us? Like, dude, mind your own business, study for your own game, and be prepared. And and he won, props to him. He's winning, but he's showing some immaturity this year.
You're talking about Brian Harsin, and I was listening to some of the announcers, because I think nobody ever really enjoys watching somebody receive so much hate the way Harsin has. But the announcers were talking about how he's very well spoken. It seems like he's taking the team in the right direction at least, and it's like they're really just trying to build him up. And I know he's already kind of behind the 8 ball with AD being gone that hired him and stuff like that. And I get it, but I think he's kind of a dead man walking at this point. So,
oh yeah, the writing's on the wall. He knows it. Everybody knows it. It's going to happen. He's just,
they tried to get him out after 1 year. So it's kind of shocking that he's still there.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got to move on. Let's talk about Alabama at Tennessee. And Tennessee won this one. Nobody got the point. I think that's fair. Although Claude, if his points counted, would have got the point, because he's the only one, our guest last week, the only one to pick Tennessee. So
nice.
Jacob, I'm going to let you go first. To the victor goes the first word.
Hey, there we go. So I am going to go a little bit off of Matt's. Like, Matt, this is like his one note for this week, and so I'm going to use it. And and his first note for this week was Hooker for Heisman. The OSU fan base can take their QB and go home. And I think that the cool thing for Hendon Hooker is, obviously everybody's kind of saying that right now, like, oh, he might be a front runner, and that's awesome. We haven't had one of those since Peyton Manning, and he still didn't win it. So, like, that's
bitter about that, right?
Yeah, no, not bitter at all. not whatsoever. Whatever. You got me distracted. Not bitter. No, but Hooker, it's special for him because, he was kind of abysmal at Virginia Tech and left there thinking maybe I can go play at Tennessee, and he's just lighting the world on fire. And I feel, he's just a good guy, a good kid. He got a good head on his shoulders and grounded really well. It's good to see him getting some good press for being a Heisman front runner. I will say, and I know I'm going to get disagreed with by Jesse on all of my takes, so it's okay. I'm going to go first, and then you can just
this is a safe space
all you want. But I'm going to say that Alabama finally got called for the things they do all the time in this game. They typically do the things they got called for every year, and it's rarely seen that they actually call it as often as they do it, in my opinion. But I think the officiating crew did miss. Birmingham did miss that. I would have called that targeting on Bryce on that one play by Omari Thomas. Other than that, I felt like it was called pretty fairly, and that Alabama played loose. I feel like they even did getting some of the things called that could have been called, and which I'm not. Obviously we won. I'm not sour about that, but I think they played like they weren't coached well, and we all know they are. Nick Saban's possibly or probably the best coach of all time, and he didn't seem to coach super well in that game, even though I'm sure he did. It just didn't seem that way. But I think overall, me as a fan, I am I still do consider myself a younger fan, although I'm 30 now, and I I'm younger fan because I am a first generation fan. My parents were Tennessee fans, and I was born there, and they were Georgia fans when I was a kid. And I chose Tennessee because of where I was born, and they moved us back here. And I was like, no, I'm still going to cheer for Tennessee, you know, like as a kid. But this was after we won our national championship, and after really right around the time we fired Philip Fulmer that I really started paying attention to Tennessee football. And so I've not seen a year like this. I mean, I haven't really seen us beat Alabama. I mean, I know we did 15 years ago, and I remember being aware of that, but I never actually watched a game where we beat Alabama. So I think for me, I feel like I deserved it. And the younger fans like me, I feel like we deserve this win, and we deserve us being good right now. Josh Heupel is just doing some amazing things that I don't think anybody really saw him doing. I was like, really like, I don't know about that hire. You know, I mean, obviously he's got decent offense, but I don't know.
He's not Greg Schiano. So.
Yeah. Let's not get started on that. You know, like I was so like, you know, I don't know about all that, but I mean, he's just come out of nowhere, and he honestly, like honest to goodness, he coached circles around the Alabama defense. It wasn't just that Jalen Hyatt's super fast. I mean, he coached him open. He coached him open on those plays. I mean, he is super fast, don't get me wrong, but he would not have been open if it wasn't for Josh Heupel's coaching and disguising him and keep being dedicated to the run game, even though our running backs are not very good. And that kept Alabama honest. And he is the reason that Jalen Hyatt had such a great game, and Hendon Hooker had such a great game. So that was good. Our O-line, which has been terrible for like 15 years, decided to make Will Anderson disappear, which was awesome. And then lastly, and I'll shut up, Derek Dooley eating spaghetti while the goalposts were being taken out of Neyland Stadium is like top tier college football. Like the picture of him just like hiding and just trying to eat his spaghetti while everybody's like walking across over his head is like, what a moment.
I just really hope that he didn't get any spaghetti sauce on those orange pants. That's
well, you know, he was just wearing a black suit because Sad Man is just getting coffee for Nick Saban at this point. So, you know.
Yeah, it's true. Cool. Yeah, man. Good points. Jesse, your takeaways from this
I'm
game.
not going to lie. Yesterday, y'all, I spent over an hour and I wrote 3 pages. I'm not lying to you. When I tell you, I went back.
This is the condensed version.
No, honestly, it is. And I've had some time to reflect. So that's helpful. I'm glad we waited. But I went through every single play-by-play of every game Alabama has played this season and looked through penalties. That's what I spent my time doing. Don't tell my office. That's what I did yesterday. Because I also had to correct somebody else on Instagram about penalties. So I have a need to be right. They got to
be more specific. They
have to be more specific. So I'm going to start off. Alabama fans, if you have seen a statistic that no opponent of ours has been called for holding at all this season, that is actually not true. They have
in a certain context, it is
in a certain context, but it's not even in that context.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I have the screenshots.
Yeah.
There has been holding called on Utah State, ULM, Arkansas, and actually one on Tennessee. However, the only offensive holding call was against ULM, and they had 2. So that statistic is incorrect. Don't fall for it, Bama fans, and just make sure you do your own research. Okay, I want y'all to look right. I want y'all to be smart. So
just looking out for the fan base.
I'm looking out. I don't want us to look stupid, y'all. I don't want us to look stupid. So I will start. Our defense didn't adjust one time, not once. Pete Golding is a terrible coordinator and a dry, clumpy bowl of grits. I can't do it.
Nobody likes those kind of grits.
No, nobody likes those. They're under-seasoned. He's cold. The worst. Ugh. They're cold. Ugh. They've been sitting on the counter.
Gross.
I don't understand what he was doing. I genuinely don't understand what he was doing. We never got pressure on Hendon Hooker. Not once. Why?
There was a sack, right? There was one sack.
There was
one at least.
One. Yeah.
That was it. Oh, one doesn't count. I want 5. Well,
I understand.
fine.
I understand.
I want Hendon Hooker to hate his life. I want him to be so well acquainted with the grass that he doesn't want to leave it. I'm mad. Bill O'Brien. Forgotten between the seats, stale chicken nugget of a play caller and human.
Which is a step beyond the stale ham sandwich of last week.
I loathe this man. I loathe this man and his play calling. I can't get over it. I'll go with more complaints before I get to the nice stuff. I'm gonna be a little on brand before I get nice.
It's gonna come full circle.
Yes, and I'm gonna be specific in when I say this and not generalize. UT fans in attendance at Neyland Stadium.
Okay. Be careful. Some of my friends were there.
On Saturday. They can yell at me. You can give my number. I think storming the field is trash. I think taking your goalpost down is trash. I think I said it when Ole Miss did it. I've said it when Auburn did it. I'll say it when any other conference does it. Don't do that. I think you should have more respect for your facilities. You should have more respect for your stadium. Don't be that surprised your team won. Believe in your team. Own it. Now, you want to storm the streets? Go storm the streets. Don't take your goalpost down. Don't do that. Don't rip up your turf and sell it on eBay. Turf is very expensive.
It made for a fantastic photo, though.
And for the people that probably go to school there, they just saw their tuition go up. Don't do that. Also, to the fans that threw water bottles and poured water on a former Bama player that is quite literally wheelchair bound with ALS. That is egregious and unacceptable. He is a former player for Alabama, correct? He was at the game. He was in a Tennessee section, but his son works on the staff and got him tickets. There is no excuse for that. I don't care who it is. I don't care what stadium you are. I don't care what fandom it is. That's not okay. Don't do that. Be better than that. Rep your school better than that. If that were a Bama fan, I would want them drawn and quartered. We don't do that. All right. It's college football, y'all. And as much as it affects my emotional stability, we are better than that as human beings, I like to think. Let's talk about officiating. I know we're all waiting for it, so let's chat about it. I do believe it was a terribly officiated game. I think it's one of the worst I've ever seen. To those that think Bama gets all the calls all the time, let's go back, because I did, to 2010 to look at all of our penalties and the amount of yards per game in penalties that we get. They're really bad. It's over 60 all the time. Now, I'm not going to blame that on officiating alone. Neyland was loud and rocking, and those false starts, that's on us. Delay a game, that's on us. I'm going to take those. All right. And I'm fine with pass interference being called. Let's call it, y'all, but let's call it both ways. And we know there were some missed pass interference calls. We all know it. Even a face mask. You want to call it pass interference, just call it a face mask. We know it. However, I will also say that while it was a terribly officiated game, that's not all on the officials, because like I said, defense never adjusted, right? We can't blame that. Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm proud of you two young men. Thank you. The only reason we were in that game is for the two of you. Thank you. Will Reichard, my sweet kicker, as triggered as I am, and my distrust for kickers goes roll deep as a student from 2011 to 16. This loss is not on you. It does not rest on your shoulders. We absolutely needed those kicks, but you should have never been put in a situation where we needed a 50-yard field goal to win this game. Alabama's offense and defense should have done better so that it never comes down to that kind of situation. It's terrible. I'm sure he's going to carry this on his shoulders. And if you are a Bama fan of any degree and you say something nasty or threaten this young man's life, shame on you. Go get therapy. You need it. Because I have known people that kicked for Alabama that have had those threats, and it's not funny and it's not okay. To Tennessee. Hendon Hooker was fast. That offense was fast. It was explosive. Hooker was accurate. Their receivers gassed our secondary. Absolutely gassed our secondary. Where were we? We weren't near their receivers. I'll tell you that. We were way somewhere else. So at the end of the day, y'all, it's okay. We have one loss. The dynasty is not over for one loss. We were outcoached. Regardless of how angry I am about officiating calls, our defense didn't adjust and we played some sloppy football. So let's get better. Let's be intense coming out next week, and God help Mississippi State, because they've actually played us after several road losses and it's gone very rough for them. So that's how I feel.
Well, there's definitely no time to brood about the loss, for sure. And like you said, if there's a silver lining, it was to an East team. So you still have your West opponents, beat those opponents, and you're good to go. You're in Atlanta no matter what. But
and I didn't get any assault charges in the state of Tennessee, nor did I get in any verbal altercations.
I think Jermaine Burton is going to catch those assault charges that you didn't catch. He's on video punching a girl in the face that stormed the field.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, rough. there's a little bit of added legal aspect there.
That is also not okay. Nice.
Was it like an accident where he was like pumped and he was like, yeah, and she ran into his fist? Or
it does not appear to be, since he wouldn't have any reason to be pumped, and it just doesn't appear to be. Now, will it hold up in court? Who knows? But it does appear to be pretty rough.
True. Yeah. Good point.
Well, I didn't get any, so
good job.
So
good job.
Well, I was happy for you that you're in the wonderful city of Nashville, but it would have been a good game for you to be in the house for with the rest of the family, I think.
I did find the one Bama bar in Nashville. I was pretty pissed off that like 10 Tennessee fans decided to watch the entire game there. I was like, you're in the state.
Well, right.
Go to any other bar. And then there was literally one Auburn fan that was there. I guess they had Auburn friends there. They were so pumped for Tennessee, and I'm like,
yeah. Well, as a unbiased, or as a fan who is a fan of neither team. Huh? Yeah, sure. Yes. Let's go with that. Just kind of a little bit objective approach, I guess. I've never seen a Bama team that beat themselves as much as this one. And I mean, that was evident with the record number of penalties, which I don't remember what it ended up being. I lost count at 17 because I think that was the record,
17.
wasn't it?
It was 17.
Okay. Yeah.
For 130 yards, in case you're curious.
I mean, that's just insane when you sit and think about it. A Saban coach team having that many penalties, it just doesn't seem like real life. Bama allowed 52 points, most in any game since 1907, which was against Sewanee, which was 54 points. And I think we all remember.
Was that before the forward pass? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
I've heard Sewanee was really good that year. So.
I think we all remember how that game turned out. Anyway, Bama secondary kept getting burned. And this goes back to what you're saying, but the most disappointing thing, I think, just sitting there watching, and again, not really caring, other than not wanting a few members of my family who are Bama fans to not be sad. I really didn't care, right? Like just watching the game, I really didn't care. But I was most disappointed in how Alabama's defense just did not adjust. And it was almost, again, as not a fan of either team, it was kind of comical to watch. It's like they are literally doing the same thing over and over again.
You are intentional.
You are not adjusting at all. There is zero pass rush. And then that's kind of a 2 points to that, because obviously if nobody gets to him, it gives more time for the receivers to get open. So he finds the open receiver, but then also the middle of the field is wide open. If nobody's open, he can just pull the ball down and run. And he did that many times as well. And so it was just bizarre to watch. I get like that happening first quarter, second quarter. Coming out of halftime, nothing was changed. No defensive adjustments whatsoever. And I know we blow up Bill O'Brien for his offensive play calling, but Pete Golding, that was just.
I wrote a breakup letter to both of them. I'm
Well,
not
let me
lying.
ask you this: like, is Nick Saban not a part of calling the defense at all? Is he just totally hands off? I mean, it's Nick
That's
Saban.
the thing
I don't
that
know.
gets me. I think that's a great question because he is historically such a defensive coach. I mean, that's what he does. That's what he played. And I asked the same question. I don't know at what point do you
Does he
just
just
take
step in and
over?
say no?
Yeah. Do you just take it and you just say, go home because you're not doing anything? I mean, I'm not a head football coach, which I know comes to everyone's surprise, but I guess you don't want to take away someone's job or
But at
make
the
them
same
feel like they're
time,
inadequate.
the fact that he didn't completely take over makes me think he was a part of it all along. You know, which
Like
is
maybe
crazy.
they agreed to that strategy all along and said, we're going to
either
stick
that
with it.
or he was part of calling the plays altogether, which I mean, I know would be shocking because we don't expect Nick Saban to be coached around like that. But at the same time, like the fact that we didn't just see like a transition where he just relieved him of his duties mid-game makes me think he might have been a part of those play calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever called it. And I'll say it to Nick too. Do better. That sucked.
Nah, he's getting old. He's over. He's through. He's done with. We've heard it all before. So yeah, I don't know, but that was extremely frustrating. But obviously, I do want to give props to Tennessee. I know it's been a long time coming. There have been people, especially as you said, Jacob, young people who don't even remember what it's like to beat Bama. I get it. They should be absolutely very excited. Props to Tennessee for fighting through some issues. They were without Tillman. But as you said, Hyatt stepped up. I think he doubled his touchdown total. Wasn't he at 5 for the season?
Yeah, I believe
he's at
so.
10 now.
Yeah.
So he doubled his touchdown count in one game. So,
and the fact that we were able to do all that without our best receiver in the game. I mean, normally you would think a number 2 wide receiver would get those numbers because they were double teaming our number 1, but our number 1 still isn't playing.
And in some sense, that may have worked to your advantage because the secondaries out there are like, all right, who do we need to focus on?
Yeah, who's the number 1? Wait a minute.
Exactly.
We couldn't find anybody. You could have put anybody out there. We were, I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, have we gotten all our feelings out? Is there anything we need to cover before we move on?
I'll never be out of feelings. I'll never be out of feelings, but we can move on.
I hear you.
Nothing that's kind. What do you tell the kids? It's like, is it helpful? Is it hurtful? Is it
or
unnecessary?
necessary? Yeah.
Nothing that is helpful.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Vandy at Georgia. Georgia winning this one 55-0. I got the point in this one. Just in summary, I think Georgia was just taking care of business here for homecoming. I do have a couple of takeaways, though. It was good to see Stetson with consistency, which he has been pretty much most of the year. He passed for 289 yards and 2 touchdowns and really just looked solid. I was encouraged to see Carson Beck looking better and better. When he first they first started putting him in, when games were getting out of hand like this, I was like, man, if he's the number 2, I don't know how excited I am for that. But he's looked better and better. So that tells me he's developing, or seems to be at least. And he's enough of a threat on the ground too, where that's encouraging as well, which is what we have with Stetson also. But I would love to see Brock Vandegrift throw the ball. It's like they get him in third and then all he does is hand off the ball. And I'm like, can we just see something of what he can do? And I'm sure he's saying the same thing too. I don't know. But I don't know. Obviously, Georgia doing what they should do against Vandy. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I had 2 quick ones. First one is, I'm going to talk about penalties. LOL. UGA is disciplined. Man, they are one of the least penalized teams in the country, averaging 4 a game. For us, that's not the case. Nationally, it puts them at number 5, and in the SEC, it has them at number 1. So I think that, if you're Kirby Smart, you're really proud of your boys playing really disciplined and clean and tight football. And that's exactly what they need to do. And it's, I think, really
number 2 in the SEC.
It's not Alabama because we're last.
Vanderbilt is number 2 in the SEC.
Interesting.
Look at y'all being respectful of the rules. This is the respect game of the week.
That is on brand for Vandy, though. They'd be a rule follower if they were.
Those nerds are by the book.
Yeah, they read the whole rule book, actually, which is great for them. But yeah, and Vandy, or playing Vandy, playing a team that you consider not as competitive. It's easy to play sloppy football sometimes. So good on them for not doing that. I think it's a great tune-up game before the latter end of the schedule. So lucky for them to ease through, get to play some of the young guys and move on.
Yeah. What you got, Jacob?
They played a good game. I mean, they bounced back on a really terrible Vandy team. They may be disciplined as in not getting penalties, but they might be worse than ever. That doesn't take away from Georgia's win. I mean, shutting out somebody and scoring 55 points is good regardless. I mean, even if it's even if it's Ball State, it doesn't really matter. That's still a good game played by Georgia. But Vandy, oh God, if we're going to talk about anything from Vandy and not just talk about Georgia, Vandy, like if I was a Vandy fan, I would so badly be stumping for not being in the SEC. Like, can I go anywhere? I mean, I would want to go anywhere. They could be super competitive in as a MAC team. I mean, super competitive.
I've heard some people compare it to, it should be like rec league softball, where if you're on the bottom two teams, you just automatically get booted to a lower league.
Well, we couldn't get low enough, could we, Wes? Okay. So anyway,
that was a flash from the past.
Oh man. So Georgia played a good game. Vandy's really bad. I agree with your Vandergraaf comment. I think that in order for them to just not allow him to throw the ball, he's got to be showing them something in practice where he's not like he's careless with the football, or he's just, I don't think he's talentless. I mean, everybody knows he's not. So he's got to be showing him something where it's like they're making him uneasy, where they're just like, okay, you can go in and hand it off, which is, that doesn't mean that can't be fixed. But I think that's a little telling for him, which is shocking because everybody was really excited to see him.
He was
come and play.
Hugely touted coming out of high school.
Huge. He could have gone anywhere he wanted. Everybody wanted him. I mean, he was a huge deal. So I feel bad for him for that. But that's just got to be what it is for him to be the number 3 and then not allowed to throw it. That's fairly telling. But I mean, Georgia looked more solid than they have all year. Vandy looked just as bad as they have all year. It is what it is.
I hear you. Let's move to Arkansas at BYU. Arkansas winning this one 52-35, despite the high altitude. So, I was the only one to pick Arkansas, so I got the point in that one. This is not a good game if you like defense. The game was basically a shootout. It really could have gone either way in the first half, especially, but then Arkansas just sort of outpaced BYU in the second half. My main takeaway from this one is KJ Jefferson is a game changer. We said it last week, but it was just, I think, evidenced by this game. When he was out last week, the offense was anemic and unable to really get anything going. Then this week, they just couldn't be stopped. And granted, it's against BYU, so you can say what you want about the defenses and stuff like that. But he threw for 367 yards and 5 touchdowns. Regardless, you still got to make the throws, right? No matter what defense it's against. So really impressed with him. I don't know. What did y'all think about this game?
I agree. Jefferson for me was, he came through on a must win. It was something where Arkansas had been losing and they needed to come out of it. I think that's why Claude and I both picked BYU, but I mean, you said his stats, like 367 yards, career high, 5 touchdowns. And he was hitting people he needed to hit. Raheem Sanders added a career high of 175 yards and a pair of touchdowns on the ground. And this snapped their 3-game losing streak after, having some pretty abysmal turnout.
Rough skid there.
Yeah. And again, it's like you said, defense was really non-existent, and especially for BYU. I get it. BYU is not in the SEC, but short drives, long drives, quick drives, any of the drives, it seems like the Razorbacks had it all against the BYU defense. And the only reason that Arkansas didn't finish the game with 9 straight scoring drives was because of a meaningless goal line stand in the final moments. So they had their way when it came to the pass and run games, and KJ Jefferson was brilliant. I think this is exactly what Arkansas needed to get their spirits back up. But as you said, it's against BYU, so we'll see, because defense for Arkansas still has to play, even if the offense is lights out, and SEC teams will take advantage of that.
No doubt. What you got, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I think Pittman as a coach, he's not quite on the same level that people had with Coach O, where he was just so likable and easy to root for or whatever, unless you're an Alabama fan. I'm sure Jesse didn't root for him. But, I think Pittman is somewhat easy to root for as a coach. I think I'll look at him and I'm like, oh, man, I hope he does well, and I don't do that with a lot of SEC coaches. And I feel bad for him. I feel like he's fallen further than anyone expected him to this season. People expected some big things, them to be the ones that challenged Alabama in the West, and, they could do all these big things, and he's just fallen so far. And I think that this game, while they bounced back and they won, I think it's really telling of why they aren't ready and why he isn't ready. Like their defense is not ready to play in the SEC. I mean, our defense is not very good, but our offense makes up for it. And KJ Jefferson is a really good quarterback. He's really good. He really is. But like if he's out, if he gets injured, anything, like they don't have the offense to make up for their atrocious defense. If BYU can do that to you, you are in trouble, like in serious trouble.
Which is a wild thing to say, because it wasn't that we're not that far removed from talking about, Barry Odom's defense doing great things on that side of the ball. And it's just been a strange thing to watch them kind of
really has
struggle that way. All right, let's move on to LSU at Florida. LSU winning this one 45-35, lots of points in this one. Matt got the point in this one. So last week's guest, Claude, dubbed this game the Fraud Bowl.
I love it.
LSU wins the Fraud Bowl in the Swamp to make its fourth straight win in the series. So I just had a couple takeaways from this one. Jaden Daniels accounted for 6 touchdowns, both passing and rushing in this one. So incredible performance from him here. Seemed like he was just playing instead of, you remember last week I was talking about how the announcers were, even the announcers were noticing that he was having a analysis paralysis. He was just trying to guide the ball in there. He wasn't just throwing the ball. And it seemed like he was just out there just playing this game and just doing what he should be. A great game by Richardson too, as we continue to just try to figure out what is going on here. He threw for 185 yards and a touchdown, rushed for over 100 yards and a touchdown. We just can't really figure out who he is right now, just with all this. He's hot and cold. What do you guys think about this game and the state of these programs?
Richardson, for me, we've been saying it, and Fraud Bowl, we thought on the first game of the season, we're like, man, and everyone's like, Richardson for Heisman. He's inconsistent. Yeah, pump the brakes. It's inconsistent. Sure, he threw for a 51-yard touchdown pass to Shorter on the second play of the game, and that put him up 7-0. And then, the crowd started singing "I Won't Back Down" by Tom Petty at the end of the third quarter, and he's scrambling for an 81-yard TD run, and that cuts LSU's lead to 42-28 on the first play of the fourth quarter. But
some really awful tackling on that run, by the way.
I know. But there was this stretch in the second, third quarter, which we've seen. This is the consistent part, right? Where in the third quarter, Florida can't do anything in a third quarter. I don't know what's happening at halftime, but in the second and third quarter, he was misfiring on passes. He threw an incompletion in the red zone on a 4th and 4 play, turning the ball over on downs. And he even said afterwards, I had a few balls behind receivers. I have to make it easier for them to make plays. I can definitely improve on that. But I think we need to improve just overall. He still has some years of development, which, he's a young guy, but he definitely has to improve quickly, because this Florida offense and this Florida team in general has got to find some identity. On, the opposite side, on LSU, Jaden Daniels demolished that UF defense. I thought he Florida had no answers to stop LSU from the quarterback position. He passed for 349 yards, 3 TDs. He rushed for 44 yards and 3 more touchdowns. He kept the Gators on their heels the entire game. And there was a lot of breakdowns in their secondary for Florida in zone coverage, which led to easy completions for Daniels. So good on him. Again, I know it's the Fraud Bowl, but if I'm an LSU fan, I'm finding this Daniels kid pretty encouraging.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. I think LSU finally got clicking. Now, Florida's obviously not very good, but the fact that LSU was just able to finally find some rhythm and all that, I mean, it was encouraging for them, I'm sure. Man, Richardson, I think I get that he's inconsistent, but I think at the same time, he is the kind of guy that really is a world beater. Like, I really do think that he is. I think that he is surrounded by a bunch of players that just aren't, like he's the one guy on the team that could go out there and make everything happen. And he's looking around at like, who else could help me out? And there's just nobody else out there, And so the reason I think that we see him being inconsistent is because when he plays a team that just absolutely locks in on him, he's kind of screwed, because teams seem to figure out that he's their one playmaker. And it's like, oh, if we, spy him really well and we contain him really well and, we can play man and get after him, they do pretty good. And so I almost hate it for Richardson, because I think he absolutely is that level of talent. He's playing for a team that isn't very good. And LSU isn't very good either. But then again, they have Jaden Daniels, who is a good quarterback. I mean, he didn't perform really well against Tennessee. Obviously, that was awesome for us. But like he is a pretty decent quarterback. And Brian Kelly, when he's really clicking on all cylinders, is a really good coach. But I think he's a momentum guy, similar to Auburn's entire team, but they just can't seem to keep any kind of momentum. And LSU had it that whole second half. So.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. What you said about Richardson. I think the good thing about him, from what I've seen in interviews, I don't know him personally, so can only go off what I hear, but I appreciate that he seems to have a really good heart. He really wants to do better. In every interview, he's like, I could have done this better. I need to do this better. He never really says like it's always like, I need to take this on. I need to improve. And so I appreciate that. I think that's a coachable person and someone that can develop, and with the right coach. And I don't know much about Napier, but hopefully he's the guy to develop him, because I do think he's a good player that is moldable and can actually go a long way.
Yeah, I agree. I've noticed that in interviews as well. Just seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and yeah. So we'll continue to follow the trajectories of both of those teams. Let's move on to Mississippi State at Kentucky. Kentucky winning this one 27-17. I was the only one to pick Kentucky. Y'all, I told you. Mississippi State was due, right? They were on a roll. They were due for one of those weird ones that they just should not lose. But this one was honestly kind of boring from a scoring standpoint for a lot of the game, especially when you consider Mississippi State, being one of those teams that's usually just lighting it up with the air raid offense and whatever. They almost seized momentum of this game with a pick six by Emmanuel Forbes to cut Kentucky's lead to 3. But then Kentucky responded like they should with a 5-play, 75-yard drive to score a touchdown and close things out. So kudos to them for not getting flustered at that, closing the game out. But yeah, I said Mississippi State was due for one of those letdown games, and they had it. Kentucky was just one of the many teams that we noticed this week or this past weekend where the teams benefited from having their starting quarterback back. There was a bunch of them like that. And then, obviously Chris Rodriguez Jr. having a day with 196 yards and 2 touchdowns on 20 carries. So on 30 carries rather. So kudos to him. Kudos to Kentucky for doing what they needed to do. What do you guys got?
My only thing is, congrats for shutting down Will Rogers, because that was my biggest thing last week, is that's what you have to do. he was lights out in every game, putting up crazy stats. And I know that that's what the offense, the style of offense positions him to do. But he went into Saturday's game averaging more than 350 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. And the defense held him to, a season low of 203 yards and 1 score. And so I think that's huge. That's what you had to do. And Coach Stoops, they asked him on Thursday, how are you going to shut down Rodgers? And he said that was the $1 million question. People have tried everything. And I think he was really, really proud, and his defensive coordinators, plan and the guy's ability to execute that plan and shut him down, because if you don't, you lose that game. And, as much as Will Levis being back helps their offense, we've mentioned in the past couple of games, you got to have the defense to back it up. So for me, that was the biggest takeaway, is they were actually able to find a plan and execute it against Will Rogers. And, Kentucky needed this game, man.
For sure. What you got, Jacob?
Yeah. So for me, I wrote this down as the battle of the mids. I think that neither one of them is very good. Neither one of them is very bad. They're just, they're okay. I think Kentucky thought they were going to be fantastic, and they are just absolutely not. I will say, anytime you get Will Levis back, like, that's a big thing. He is their guy. He's pretty decent. I think his toughness is what makes him so good. I don't know that he's like, going to be a star one day or whatever, but he's tough, and he does his absolute best to will his team to victory. I think that this game is really interesting because, typically when we play Kentucky, we view them as not a very good defense. They typically never play very good defense. And I thought they did really well against Mississippi State. And I think that it's just really odd for a team with an offensive head coach as good as Leach has been at other places, where he can't seem to consistently find his rhythm at Mississippi State. I mean, he shows flashes, and we're all like, oh wow, look at Will Rogers, look at this play, look at his scheming, that sort of thing. But it's not consistent, and maybe that speaks to how erratic he is in the rest of his life. I don't know. But in the past and other places, we've seen him be really consistently good on offense, and we just are kind of seeing him up and down. And maybe in this game, Kentucky really was playing great defense, and maybe they were just coaching circles around him. But I don't know. It's just really odd. And I think that it's always good for a Tennessee fan, because Kentucky is like, I don't know, maybe 3rd place on our rival list for a Tennessee fan. But they're like the ones who seem to talk the most trash, especially online. They're like always in our faces, and it's just the weirdest thing. And so it's always good for a Tennessee fan to be able to say that's the battle of the mids. They're just not very good. I mean, congrats, you beat Mississippi State, but you're not going to beat Georgia. You're not going to beat Tennessee. You're like, it's just not going to happen. So,
yeah. Well,
I didn't realize. I don't know. I guess geographically, I guess it makes sense, but I wouldn't.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, back in the day, like way back in the day, I think it was a lot bigger thing. And I think that Kentucky fans still see it as a big thing, kind of like Tennessee with Alabama. I'm giving myself a little bit of humility there. But Kentucky fans still see it as a thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're your biggest rival. And we're like, no, you're really not. You kind of suck. But back in the day, I think they were, they had the beer barrel. Yeah, it was the fight for the beer barrel back in the day. And I think it was a pretty big deal, but it hasn't been for a very long time. So,
yeah. All right. Well, that does it for last week's games. Current pick'em standings. I've got 30. Matt has 22. Jesse has 12. A lot of football left.
Whatever.
To be played. I'm just saying, anything can happen. Hey, all it takes is a couple of weeks where you just dominate and you're right back there. So
I'm gonna get all the playoff games dead on.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
scores right.
The stakes are even higher then, or the points are worth more. So, all right. Well, let's get into a real quick. I think it'll be real quick opinion segment.
Sir, if I may venture an opinion.
I'm not really interested in your opinion, 3PO.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right. Well, I saw this question posed online, and I thought it was a great one for here, especially since we have people of both fandoms. But will we see a rematch of Alabama versus Tennessee in the SEC championship? Only one of them, or none of them? 2 different teams entirely. I don't know. What do you guys think? Just jump in. whenever you feel like it. Not on everybody at once.
Well, I think for me, right now, and if anybody that knows me knows that I am not a trash talker. I don't like it. I don't like it pre-game. Afterwards, cool. I can tease you, you can tease me. But before the game, like, everybody should be quiet because nobody knows how it's going to go. And then afterwards we can get, rib each other. But if we're halfway through the season and we're supposed to call who's going to go to the SEC championship, I honest to goodness would pick us right now. Right now, I would pick us. I would either pick Alabama or Ole Miss, which is pretty obvious, but man, I got to be honest. If we're going to be there, I've got to root for a rematch against Lane Kiffin, not Alabama, which I guess you can put down as my pick. I would just love to see it. I don't like Lane Kiffin. Everybody knows Tennessee fans don't like Lane Kiffin. He can go jump in the Tennessee River for all I care, but it would be maybe the most entertaining SEC championship we've had in 20 years. I mean, everybody knows it would be, even if your team's not in it and boohoo, cry, whatever, but that would be fully entertaining to see.
It would be
Tennessee
entertaining.
and
Entertainment
Ole Miss,
factor is there. For sure.
In the SEC championship game. So I will just, I'll call that shot and say Tennessee Ole Miss.
I would want to see a live feed of Twitter, like, next to the game.
Yes.
If that were to happen,
Yes.
just like,
Yeah.
watching.
Oh man, that's a great. You need to pose that to who? Yeah, that's CBS still, I guess. Yeah, and they need to add that feature in the corner of our screens. So,
well, they would have to really try hard to filter out the
moderated.
profanities. It would 100%. Be really tough to moderate that.
Big delay.
Yeah, as they say, it definitely couldn't be like an automatic stream or like some kind of feed. There'd have to be
just
some
hashtag
kind of
this and it'll pop up. No, we can't do that at all.
No. I recognize that this question by default is an odd one to pose to you guys because you're biased, obviously. Regardless, I know you're trying to be objective.
100%. I'm a troll.
But that's cool too, and that's why we're here. Like, be as objective or as subjective as you want to be. What do you think, Jesse?
That's tough, right? Because, like, in order for Tennessee to be there, Georgia's not there, and
say what you think. You're not hurting my feelings.
No, I know. Oh, I'm not worried about hurting your feelings. I don't. Whatever. But I'm struggling to think if Georgia's not there. I think in the West, I think Alabama has it. Knock on wood, like crossing all my fingers. I say that, but yeah, I mean, I would love to see Alabama rematch Tennessee. Absolutely. If we can get a new defensive and offensive coordinator by then, I would also be very happy.
New head coach too.
Yeah, I got a lot of requests.
Get that guy out of here.
But like, I would love to see it. I think when you play a team twice in a season, and we've seen it with Georgia and Alabama, it's a different game. I'm not saying the outcome's necessarily going to be different, but I think we just see a different dynamic within the game. I would hope on both sides,
in theory, there are adjustments made, right?
In theory, people make improvements, but I would think it would be a lower scoring game for both teams. I just don't know. Honestly, and I know this sounds so dumb. I was really young in 2006 when Tennessee beat us, and it's hard for me to imagine Tennessee in an SEC championship. And I'm not saying that as like me being a Bammer. I'm just saying in my lifetime, that hasn't been what happens. So let's go. Let's do it.
So you're saying the rematch.
You know what? I'm saying the rematch because I haven't seen Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee struggles against Mizzou or Kent State like Georgia did. So sure, I'm calling the rematch. Do I get a point for this if it happens?
Give her the point. Give her the point.
We got some time to figure this out. Yes.
Okay, well, just throwing that request.
Yeah, no, I like it. I don't know. So I think the rematch is certainly a possibility, but
for ratings,
I think, yeah, I think if I had to say which one I thought wouldn't make it, as much as I hate to say it, Jesse, I think that Tennessee is on a roll. right now. I could see them coming into Athens and beating Georgia. I don't obviously want it to happen, but I could see it happening. Especially given the way the Georgia-Tennessee game went last year. I think Georgia figured out what they needed to do to stop Tennessee's offense eventually. At the beginning, was not so much, but eventually they did. And then I don't know if it's going to be the same type of game this year, though. Different defense or different personnel, at least. And so I don't know. I could see Tennessee just kind of rolling on through. But I don't know. I feel like Bama's got a lot of questions right now. Obviously, Ole Miss is undefeated now too. And I could just see something weird happening. I think Lane may have learned a little something from his popcorn comment last year. And I think he's going to come into that game a little bit more humble this year.
Chilling out on just like going for it on fourth down. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the rematch is a possibility. If it was just one of them, I think it would probably be Tennessee, as weird as that sounds to say. But I think that's definitely that's what I would expect. Again,
but you're calling Tennessee Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because yeah, I mean, if things were to go awry in the West, I'd say, or at least different than we expect in the West, then that's probably what would happen.
Honestly, at this point, like within a year, I have had awful things happen as a Bama fan that I never thought I would be able to get through, and I have successfully gotten through. Losing to Jimbo
the sun
Fisher.
rises again.
It does. Losing to Jimbo Fisher, awful, terrible, whatever. Losing to Georgia, losing a natty to Georgia. Whoa. And now losing to Tennessee. So you can't hurt me anymore. I've already been hurt. Okay.
Imagine being a Tennessee fan.
Well, yeah, I was going to say
impervious.
As I said, Jacob, you've been through a lot. I would say as a Georgia fan, not in recent years, but been through a lot in years past, been down that path. I have lost to Vandy, not me personally, but my team has lost to Vandy at homecoming. I was there and it was not fun. So
the thumb against Auburn 6 years in a row, y'all. Rough.
Yeah. So no, that's going to be interesting one to watch. And who knows, it might be a completely different look in the SEC this year, as weird as that is. All right, well, let's move to the upcoming games and make a few predictions.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, well, let's get started with the one that I know everyone is waiting for, and that is the noon kickoff UT Martin Skyhawks at 4-2 at number 3 Tennessee at 6-0. So this is how UT Martin has done this year. They've won against Western Illinois, lost to Missouri State and Boise State, and then had wins against Lindenwood, Tennessee Tech, and Murray State. Not making fun, because we play small teams too. So just saying. Last I checked, Tennessee had a 99.4% chance of winning this game, according to FPI. So Jesse, let's start with you. What is your prediction for this game?
Y'all, if in some alternate universe Tennessee does not win this game, I will eat an entire raw potato. I'm picking the Vols.
Almost makes me wish for a loss.
Right? Vols, easy day, 52-6. And I think those are like 2 field goals that happen. They probably happen just during halftime. They just give it to them. They're practicing kicks and they're just like, just put it on the board.
Yeah. Matt is going with UT big 55-20.
20.
Guys,
wow.
Maybe it's one of those. Maybe it's one of those garbage time type things. Yeah, it's like the 6th string defense is playing at that point, and I don't know.
Yeah. We have that totally.
So guys, Tennessee is all hyped up, and they are about to have I can't even say it with a straight face. Tennessee wins this one big, 63-10. Jacob, what do you got?
That'd be more like what I was going with. I was going with 10 for them, and I would go more like 56. This is not enough of a team to be a trap game. If we were coming off of Alabama going to Kentucky, trap game. Right. But coming off of Alabama and going into UT Martin, I mean, they they're like UGA playing like UGA Tifton. Isn't that a thing? I think that's a thing. I mean, like it's Tennessee, but the itty bitty campus, like it's just
Right.
not no, there's zero shot. There's no.
This
Alrighty.
game was scheduled simply so that they could invite that school to Knoxville.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like a high school level kind of team. I mean, it's no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Some of those guys were the best on their high school team, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Right. And what a thrill to be playing in a massive stadium. I mean, it's got to be for them. And especially at the beginning of the game when,
They make
the
a
whole
ton
crowd
of
is there.
money.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that too.
But the players don't make all that money. So it's not
No, they
as
don't.
exciting for them
Right.
that all that money's
They
coming in.
don't. But they may get like a crushed ice machine in
Ooh.
the locker room with that
Nice.
money. Which, can you put a price on that?
No, that's right. All right, let's move to number 7, Ole Miss at 7-0, 3-0 in the SEC at LSU at 5-2, 3-1 in the SEC. That is the CBS game at 3:30. So a little quick preview. LSU went on the road last week and beat the odds at Florida, and the betting line has swung from Ole Miss opening at a 2.5 point favorite, then dropping to a 1.5 favorite on Monday afternoon. And as of right now, or last I looked, LSU is a 1.5 point favorite. Is Vegas right, Jesse? What do you think?
If this was a 7 o'clock game, yep. But it's not. Night games in Death Valley, you pick LSU. 3:30 games, meh. Maybe. I think Lane Kiffin is able to pull this one out, but it is a close one. We talked about it before. Ole Miss has been playing to the level of their opponents. And as Claude said, LSU a little bit fraudulent. So I think this is a really close game because Ole Miss is not going to be hitting the gas in the first half here. And they're going to have to play catch up in the second. I am picking the Rebels 28-27.
All right. That is the definition of a close game. Matt has Ole Miss winning this one 28-10. Look, I know the bookies, as we mentioned, have shifted to slightly favor LSU. I just think Ole Miss has got this one. And LSU, they got a lot of issues to work through still. I think Ole Miss needs to go up early in this game, though, because it gets crazy there after dark. I'm going with Ole Miss 35-31. Jacob, what do you got?
Maybe it's because we've already played them. Now it was a noon game, but I don't think that makes a ton of difference.
And you had the Smoky Grays.
Whoa, big difference. No, I think Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin this year are just too good on the ground. I think that they are going to rush for a whole bunch. Honestly, I got them in a blowout. I would say 42-21.
Okay. All right. Next is Vandy at 3-4, 0-3 in the conference at Mizzou, 2-4, 0-3 in the conference. That is 4:00 on SEC Network. This is Mizzou's homecoming game. Somebody is going to walk out of this game with an SEC win. Somebody. Vanderbilt hasn't won an SEC game since 2019 when they beat Mizzou. The Tigers have lost each of the last 3 games by only 1 possession. So some interesting talking points there. Jesse, what do you think about this game?
This is everyone had a lot of fun and we tried our best game of the week. And we're champions of life.
Oh, Butch Jones reference.
Yeah. Trying to find something good for these gentlemen here. I'm going to pick Mizzou simply because it's at Mizzou and they might be slightly better than Vandy? Question mark. So I'm going to pick.
I love the uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Tigers 24-13. I think this is trash.
All right. Matt is picking Mizzou 24-21. And I have nothing to base this on, but I have just got a feeling that Vandy is going to ruin Mizzou's homecoming. I'm going with Vandy. They're going to get their first SEC win since 2019. Vandy wins this one 24-21. What do you think, Jacob?
I hope that's right.
I'm going to go actually with Vandy as well. I think they're going to raise the coach on their shoulders and act like it's the biggest deal ever too. And I'm going to go with Vandy, 28-24.
All right. I like it. All right. Next is number 24, Mississippi State at 5-2, 2-2 in the SEC. At number 6, Alabama, 6-1, 3-1 in the SEC. That is a 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. Some quick topics about this one. Like I said earlier, no time to brood about a loss for Bama. Key games coming up. They got to hunker down, as Larry Munson would say. Mississippi State has gotten out their loss that they shouldn't have. No hate on Kentucky, but it was weird to watch the air raid offense be rendered kind of boring, I felt. Does this mean that Mississippi State comes in more focused than ever? Is this going to be a thing? Should Bama be worried? Jesse, what do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, we got to clean up our act for sure. We've got to make sure that defensively and offensively, we're making adjustments regardless of who we play as the game goes. But we've historically seen it. For some reason, Mississippi State always plays us after we've lost on the road, and it's been pretty abysmal for them. And it's at Bryant-Denny, and it's a night game. So I am, without a doubt, picking the Tide, and I'm picking them 38-17.
Good. Matt has Bama winning this one 48-27. So Vegas has Bama by 21 in this one, or at least they did last I looked. I'm having a hard time with that. I don't see that big of a win. I don't think we're going to see any kind of like lopsided victory like that, but I don't think we're going to see like an upset either with Mississippi State winning. I think Bama wins this one, but expect another kind of exciting, close one. I've got Bama winning this one 34-28. Jacob, what do you got?
Yeah, I honestly, I think Bama bounces back really big. I think they take their frustrations out. I do think they clean up some of the penalties, some of the, obviously they're going to clean up some false starts because they're at home. But yeah, no, I think they bounce back big. I think Mississippi State is way off from being able to compete. And I got them 42-14.
I'm really looking forward to Mike Leach press conferences this week, though.
Well,
always.
They're really figuring out how to play into it. I don't know if you've watched the SEC network,
They're waiting for odd questions.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, they're on the field. Gosh, who was it? It was ESPN's Marty. He was talking to him about coffee a couple weeks ago, I think. And Mike Leach just said, coffee. No, he encourages it. Mike Leach, he loves it.
Oh yeah.
And you know what? What's funny is I bet that he's nothing like that in the locker room. I think he just puts it's like a character that he puts on.
That kid that got bullied for being weird growing up.
So
and then now that he's in the spotlight and people think it's funny, he's weird. He thinks that they're like laughing with him and like they're his friends.
100%.
Where it really isn't changed much from the playground, but he's just getting TV time for it now.
Absolutely. I honestly though, like I had an ag teacher that was just like him in high school, and he just had the most random advice and random facts and random stuff he would just say all day long. And so like I just see that in him. And honestly, he's just, and this is going to sound crazy, but he is where like he gets the amount of attention that Lane Kiffin wishes he got.
Absolutely.
Like, because everybody actually wants to hear from Mike Leach because they think he's great and hilarious and it's very endearing. And then Lane Kiffin talks and everybody's like, you're entertaining. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great point. It's like, yeah, no, I never thought about it that way. Lane Kiffin is just not endearing.
He's just not. He's the guy that every girl broke up with in college. Like he's not
still dating college girls.
Exactly. He's still the guy that every girl breaks up with in
college.
No doubt.
That'd be the name of the episode.
Exactly.
Oh man. All right. Well, the final game coming up is Texas A&M at South Carolina. And I didn't write down the records, but you guys can, you're smart people. You can look that up. Yeah. 7:30 on SEC Network. Preview topics. A&M had a bye week, but they entered this one as only a 3-point favorite against South Carolina, which sounds kind of weird to say. South Carolina also had a bye week after their big win against Kentucky, and they are looking to get their first win in this series, which A&M has dominated 8-0, which I didn't really realize this, not being like a fan of either team, but it's been a yearly cross-division rivalry since 2014. So there you go.
Cool.
Fun facts. Jesse, what is your prediction for A&M at South Carolina?
Yeah, this one, I could change the name and the score would be the same. And I don't know. I'm going to pick this one close. I'm going to go with Carolina just because I would prefer that the inhabitants of this state be in a better mood overall. And I hate Jimbo Fisher. So I think it's a close one. I'm going to pick the Gamecocks 21-20.
All right. Matt has South Carolina also 17-14. This one is a tough one for me. We've watched both of these teams go through their Jekyll and Hyde phases all season long. So it's really impossible to really just pull a number out of the air, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I am going to go with A&M winning though, but I'm going to go with this one being close, 21-17. Jacob?
You
Did I
know,
say
for
match
me,
score?
yeah, you did.
Okay, cool.
For me, I think Shane Beamer is just a more animated Butch Jones. I think that he is an absolute fraud that's making it on his dad's name, which is really more like Derek Dooley. And I think that the national media really loves to repeat the word Beamer ball or words Beamer ball over and over again. It's really annoying. I don't think he's good. I don't think he's a good coach. I don't think they have a good team. I think that they are a very fluky team though. And I think that they have the ability to upset randos, but I absolutely don't think that they upset Texas A&M, or if that even is, I don't know who's favored. What did you say? I don't even remember.
A&M by 3.
Yeah, I don't think they upset A&M by 3. I think that A&M actually probably wins it more like a 28-14.
Okay. So what you're saying is that this is like a Pavlov's dogs thing. People say Beamer ball, and immediately the response is quality football.
Yeah, and it's just not the case at South Carolina. It's never going to be. For me, like
Spurrier almost did it. He
almost did. He almost did. And if he can't win a national championship at South Carolina, nobody can. And you're not going to tell me that Beamer ball is just going to come in there and change the game for South Carolina because he wears, trendy sunglasses. I don't know. I don't get the hype.
Backwards
I don't
hat.
get him. I don't get it. I mean, I wear a backwards hat and trendy sunglasses, but I don't act like I'm cool. I'm just like them. So that's what I do.
Like the, oh God, why I've like blocked his name from memory. Oh my God, Michigan. Harbaugh. He's like the Harbaugh of the SEC.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
playing at a terrible school. So he's like, oh, I'm awesome. But you're playing with mediocre athletes. You're a mediocre coach. Like you're just like the epitome of just total mid.
He's trying so hard.
Yes, he's trying very hard, and it's just not going to happen.
There's not much to recruit to in Columbia.
No.
Yeah,
no.
That's fair. All right. Well, that does it for this week's upcoming games. So real quick before we get out of here, though, what is the game to watch this week coming up? What do y'all think?
The one I'm going to make sure I watch is LSU Ole Miss. I don't think it's super close, as I already predicted. But it's the one I guess I'm most excited for anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that one's the one other than Alabama, that's the one that I'm most excited to watch just because I think it'll be interesting. I think to see how LSU is at home with their quarterback, if they can do some damage, and to see if Ole Miss is really going to come out and play 4 quarters of good football, because they've got to start doing that.
Yeah. I think I'm most excited to watch Mississippi State at Alabama. Both of these teams are coming off of a loss. And it's, we've said that, Bama's going to come in angry. And yeah, we also forget that Mississippi State also is coming off a loss. And Mike Leach, while he is hilarious, he cannot skate along with his hilarity. There are still pressures of being a head coach. And so they're going to be ready to play also. So I'm interested to watch that one. All right. Well, that does it for the upcoming games, just for fun. So obviously we saw lots of things happen at Neyland Stadium after the win. cool things, exciting things, crazy things, bizarre things. But my question to you guys is, what is the most bizarre thing that you've ever seen someone do after their team won a game? And there's a part 2 to this, but let's stick here for right now. And when somebody's team has
First
won.
thing that comes to mind, I don't know if it's quite what you have in mind, but I thought the weirdest thing I've ever seen is when UCF won their whole season, declared themselves national champions, had a trophy made, and did a tour around the country.
What a
and
joke.
quite literally brought it to Tuscaloosa the year we won. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Ironically,
joke.
is their current head coach's fault.
Yeah.
Gus
Yeah.
Melton.
That's pretty funny.
Yep.
Anyway. Okay. I like that one. Jacob, do you have anything? Any weird things?
I don't
Bizarre
know.
things?
I mean, there was a whole bunch of weird stuff that happened this weekend. Tennessee fans went, as over the top as they should have gone. I'm not with Jesse. I love the fact that we stormed the field. I wish we do it every week. I think it's fantastic. I love ripping up the goalposts.
Just set up a GoFundMe for every week.
The very large woman who ripped up the field, not even sure she was a Tennessee fan. But the pictures of her like stuffing that giant purse with all that turf. I don't know. I don't know who she was, where she's from.
Off eBay.
No, God, no, I'm not buying that crap because I could go pull some out of my yard right outside and sell it on eBay. Like, I'm not going to buy it. If I'd have been there, I would have walked away with something. Probably not turf because I think that's a little much, but I would have walked away with something. There were people that literally like cut sections of bleacher. I don't know what they brought into the stadium that allowed them to do that, but somebody walked away with there's a whole Barstool montage of things that people walked out of that game with. And there's all kinds, I mean, just the most ridiculous things. You should try and find it. It's fantastic.
Your security if people have tools that
I'm telling you, the security were filming it. I mean, have you seen any of the videos? They all had their phones out like, look at them. This is crazy. They were just into it, and that's fine. If they were willing to prepare.
There's over 100,000 people doing stuff. It's really hard to stop them.
Oh,
are you kidding me? If I was security in there and 100,000 people just ran down on the field and they were going to take down the goalpost, what am I going to do? Tase one of the 100,000? Like,
as soon as the game was over, I would have left. I'm security. I leave.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like the refs. Did you watch the refs run off the field?
Oh yeah. They were. They were gone.
I'm out.
They were gone. Yeah. And Henry Toa because he knew what was, it was best for him.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there was all kinds of crazy stuff that happened. I guess I don't really have anything in particular, but you could Google some stuff after this weekend.
Yeah. So the goalpost in the Tennessee River was definitely one of the most bizarre things I've seen. I mean,
Listen, they were
down.
planning out the route on Twitter all week. If we win, this is the route out of the stadium and down the street we're going to take. Should we take this way? Should we take that way? Should we just chuck them over the top? And one group tried. I don't know if you saw that. I've seen all the videos.
They took it up top and tried to throw it.
They tried to take it up top, and as they got like almost to the upper deck, one of them got tased and they all stopped and left it.
I missed that one.
But the one that got out and made it all the way to the Tennessee River, they actually marched all the way down the strip, got all the way down to the area where the bridge connects and threw it in the river. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, they mapped it out for a week, how they were going to do it.
But it has been since recovered, right? They got it out, right?
Oh, I have no idea if they got it out of the river, but they already have the new goalposts up.
I thought one of them, they chopped it up and sold it for like charity or something like that.
I think that was the one that was left in the stadium. So whenever they were trying to take that one up and they dropped it because somebody got tased, I mean, like it stayed. They all just like ran. They were like, oh no, I don't want to get tased. And they ran.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one of them. But I think you said the one that takes the cake for me, because it just made me just laugh hysterically when I saw is that lady stuffing sod in her purse. I was like, what is this? Yeah, she was very like adamant.
She wasn't even wearing orange. It was an orange out, and she wasn't wearing orange. Therefore, I don't know whose fan she was.
It's like people also moved away from her. Like in the picture I saw, no one's standing near her.
Everybody's like, who is this lady?
Weird vibes.
Yes, she is strange. If Tennessee fans think you're strange, you're strange.
The SDS article was like, which one of y'all stole the checkerboard, or a part of it at least?
Yeah, and then there she is.
Yeah. All right. So, what's the most bizarre thing you've ever seen somebody do after their team lost a game? This one could get bad.
This one could get bad. I'm going to say, and I don't remember now if it was actually from a loss, but it is one of the strangest things in retaliation I've ever seen. I'm going to say poisoning a tree.
Ooh, honestly, stole mine. I was definitely going to say that.
Harvey Updike is a trash human. We as a Bama fan base did not plan that on Twitter prior to him doing it. He did not go to the University of Alabama, and we do not claim him.
As Andy Bernard from The Office would say, that was an overreaction.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that one's good. Do you have another one, Jacob? Do you have a backup?
Oh gosh, what would be my backup? I mean, I think anybody that is actually willing to break their TV over a loss of a football game is pretty psychotic. I mean, I have been very upset, but I'm not like $600 upset at any point, $700 upset. You're just not going to have me throw my TV in the yard. Maybe take my jersey off and throw it, maybe throw my hat, something like that, scream at the top of my lungs, but busting my TV up. Yeah, no way. Absolutely not.
Back in the day with the old, tube screen TVs, you could throw your hat at the TV and it was okay because it's
totally fine. You could throw just about anything other than a hammer at that TV and it would be okay.
But not so much nowadays. But that was actually what I had in mind when I had said this one was I can't even remember which one it was. I can't remember if the guy threw like a heavy object at his TV or if he physically picked up his TV and threw it. But I don't even remember which game it was, but it was on, I don't know, TikTok, Instagram, something like that. One of the overreactions. So that's probably the weirdest one.
Setting their jerseys on fire. I'm just not gonna do that.
Yeah. It's like, again, it's one game. First of all, it is a game. Second of all, it is one game. And I don't know. It's just
jerseys are like over $100.
Very expensive.
Exactly.
And the people that do that, honestly, like they have to be people that haven't been fans for long. Because in order for you to do that, you haven't been through very many heartbreaking losses. Because I've been through so many at this point, like we said earlier, like you can't hurt me. Like it's literally impossible to hurt me because I've been hurt so many times. Like you couldn't convince me to break anything in my house over a Tennessee loss because I've just done so many of them.
I'm not breaking anything.
Alabama
no longer pays my salary.
Yeah. Well,
it's okay.
You can ask Jesse and Matt last year when Georgia played Alabama for the championship. I didn't even pick Georgia. And that wasn't me, being sour or not believing in my team. That was just me being realistic. I was like, yeah, I've seen this movie before, people. It's like, you can't trick me again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, that actually does it for this week's episode. Jacob, thanks again, man, for coming on.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it.
A lot of fun. Appreciate your perspective as a Tennessee fan. And look at this. We all got along. It was wonderful.
Wow.
So if you guys would like to contact us, please do so. Email us at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We are at Pigskins and Pageantry on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. On Twitter, we are at PPSEC Podcast. We're available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. We're on Amazon Music now and iHeartRadio and just all the things. So catch us wherever you can. We appreciate that. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment, subscribe, and review. We'd love 5 stars. It just boosts everything and makes our show more visible and helps us continue to make these. I appreciate that. Guys, some exciting games coming up. We're at that point where it's like the season within the season. So much going on right now. So looking forward to the games of the weekend. Until next time, this is Wes. Go Dogs.
Bama fans, hold your heads up high. And remember, when they beat us, they tear their stadiums apart. For us, it's just a Saturday. Roll Tide.
Fans, it feels like 98. Let's go.